I was returning from the attorney's office, my heart pounding so hard I could feel every pulse in my temples. I was 71 years old, but at that moment, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in a very long time. I carried in my purse the most important documents of my life: 3 apartment units and a house facing the ocean. All mine. All inherited from my brother, Arthur, the only one who had ever truly believed in me, the only one who saw me as more than a tired mother or a forgotten widow. I walked slowly down the sidewalk, feeling the weight of the manila envelope against my side. I couldn't stop smiling. I thought about how I would tell my son, Christopher. I thought about the expression on my daughter-in-law, Lucy's face. I imagined their hugs, their surprise, maybe even tears of joy. After so many years of living tight, counting every dollar, denying myself small luxuries just to avoid being a burden, I finally had something to offer them. Something big, something that would change our lives. The afternoon sun warmed my back as I climbed the front steps. The house smelled like fresh coffee. I heard voices in the living room. Christopher and Lucy were there. Perfect. I wouldn't have to wait to tell them. I could drop the news right there, watch their faces light up, feel that all the sacrifice of these years had been worth it. But then, just as I was about to turn the doorknob to the living room, I heard my name. It was Lucy's voice. Firm, clear, without the sweet tone she always used with me. I froze. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was that sixth sense women develop after decades of reading between the lines, of understanding what isn't said. I stayed there, on the other side of the slightly open door, holding my breath. What I heard next sliced through me like a knife. Lucy was speaking in that business voice of hers, the one I had only heard when she was on the phone with her friends or her mother, never with me. With me, it was always honey and feigned patience. I already spoke with Dr. Thompson, she said. He confirmed that with 2 more evaluations we can get the certificate. He says it's easy. At her age, any forgetfulness can be documented as cognitive decline. I felt the floor shift beneath my feet. Christopher replied, "My son, my only child. The boy I carried, raised, and defended against everyone and everything." "And are you sure there won't be any legal problems?" he asked. "None," she answered with a chilling certainty. "Once we have guardianship, we can sell this house, liquidate her accounts, and no one can say anything. She'll be well taken care of in the facility. Visits on the weekends if you want. But the reality is, we can't keep going like this, Christopher. We've been carrying her for years." Carrying her. Carrying me. I leaned against the wall because my legs wouldn't hold me up. The manila envelope was burning against my side. 3 apartment units, a house facing the ocean, and they were planning to lock me up, declare me incompetent, and steal everything from me. "I don't know, Lucy," Christopher said, and for a second, a miserable, pathetic second, I felt hope. "She's my mother." "Exactly, she's your mother, and she's consuming everything we have. How much longer are we going to wait? Your debts aren't going to pay themselves. The business is bankrupt. We need liquidity now, not in 5 years when she finally—" She didn't finish the sentence. It wasn't necessary. "Dr. Thompson said we can start the process next week," Lucy continued. "I already have the forms. We just need your signature and hers. But that's easy. We'll tell her it's for a health insurance update or something. She signs everything you put in front of her." She was right. I had signed everything they had asked me to over the past few years. I trusted them. I trusted them blindly. "And how much do you estimate we can get for the house?" Christopher asked. Lucy sighed. as if they were finally getting to the important part. The realtor said between $250,000 and $300,000, depending on how fast we want to sell. If we wait a bit, maybe more. But I say we sell fast. Between that and what she has saved, we can get rid of all the debts and still have enough left over to invest in the new project. What about her? I already told you. The assisted living facility costs $2,000 a month. We can pay for years with what we get. She'll be fine. Better than here, in fact. She'll have people around all day. Activities. Professional care. $2,000 a month. They were appraising me, calculating how long they could keep me locked up before my own money ran out. I don't know if I can do that to her, Christopher murmured. But his voice no longer held conviction. It was just a conscience check, a final resistance before giving in completely. Christopher, sweetie, listen to me, Lucy said. And now her voice was soft, enveloping, the voice she used to manipulate him too. Your mother has lived her life. She had her marriage, she had her son, she had her good years. Now it's our turn. We have a right to live without this burden, and she'll be fine. I promise you. Silence. A long, thick, unbearable silence. And then my son's voice. All right, do it. But fast. I don't want this to drag out. Something inside me shattered at that moment. It wasn't dramatic. There were no immediate tears and internal screams. It was something deeper, more definitive. It was like watching the final piece fall from a building that had been collapsing for a long time, only I had been refusing to see it. I stood there, on the other side of the door, clutching the envelope to my chest. Inside were the documents for 3 apartment units and a house facing the ocean. A fortune they didn't know existed. A fortune my brother Arthur, in his infinite wisdom, had left me with a single condition written in his letter. Ophelia, don't tell anyone until you're sure who deserves to know. Now I understood why. I took a deep breath, forced my hands to stop trembling, and backed away silently toward the entrance. I opened and closed the front door forcefully, making noise this time. I'm home, I called out in a cheerful, almost sing-song voice. I heard quick movement in the living room. When I walked in, Christopher and Lucy were sitting on the couch, smiling. He had his cell phone in his hand. She was holding a coffee cup, the perfect image of a quiet family afternoon. Hi, Mum, Christopher said, standing up to kiss my forehead. How did it go? Fine, son, I replied, tucking the envelope into my handbag before they could see it. Just some insurance paperwork, nothing important. Lucy smiled. That smile I could now see for exactly what it was. Do you want some coffee, Ophelia? I just made a fresh pot. Yes, honey. Thank you. I sat down in my usual chair and watched them move around the kitchen. I observed every gesture, every look they exchanged. Everything made sense now. Every comment about my memory, every suggestion that I rest more, every piece of paper they had put in front of me to sign. I took the coffee Lucy offered me and smiled. They didn't know everything had changed. They didn't know the woman they had just planned to lock up and strip of her assets now held more power than they could ever imagine. They didn't know I had listened. And they definitely didn't know that Ophelia Miller, the quiet and convenient widow, had just woken up. My life had been simple. Too simple, perhaps. I was born in a small town where women learned from childhood that our destiny was to care, to serve, and to disappear a little more each day so that others could shine. I married Robert Miller when I was 23 years old. He was a good man, hard-working, the type who comes home tired but always has a smile for his wife. We were never rich, but we never lacked for anything essential either. Christopher was born 2 years after the wedding. He was my only child. I had 2 miscarriages before him and 1 after, so when he finally stayed, I protected him as if he were made of glass. Maybe that's where it all started. Maybe I loved him too much. I protected him too much. I gave him everything I didn't have, and in the process, forgot to teach him the most important thing, that things are earned, not inherited by divine right. Robert passed away 12 years ago, a massive heart attack while driving home from work. He didn't even make it to the hospital. He left me the house, some modest savings, and a small pension that barely covered basic expenses. Christopher was already married to Lucy by then. They had been together for 3 years. At first, after the funeral, they talked about me moving in with them. "You can't stay alone, Mum," Christopher would say. But I resisted. I still had strength. I could still take care of myself. I still had my house, my space, my routines. For 5 years, I lived that way, visiting them on Sundays, receiving their polite calls midweek. But things changed when Christopher lost his job. They never told me exactly what happened. Something about company cutbacks, restructuring, the gentle lies people tell when someone is fired. Lucy worked, but her salary wasn't enough to maintain the lifestyle they had become accustomed to, the expensive apartment in the new part of town, the latest model car, the weekend trips to restaurants. That's when the visits became more frequent, and the conversations more specific. "Mum, this house is too big for you alone," Lucy would say, looking around with those calculating eyes I didn't know how to read yet. "I don't feel alone here. I'm fine," I replied. And it was true. I liked my solitude. I liked my plants in the garden, my television shows at night, my morning coffee on the porch. "But think about the practicality," Christopher insisted. "If something happened to you, if you fell, if you felt sick in the middle of the night, no one would notice until hours later." They had a point about that, I suppose. Old age brings those fears, that feeling of fragility that wasn't there before, that fear of dying alone and being found days later by a neighbor who notices the smell. So when they proposed that we all move into my house together, I accepted. They would sell their apartment, pay their debts, and we would live as a family. "It will be like before, Mum," Christopher said. "Like when I was a kid." But it wasn't like before. From day one, things were different. Lucy reorganized the whole house to make it more functional, she said. My furniture ended up in the basement, my paintings replaced by hers, my kitchen redesigned to her tastes. Little by little, my house stopped being mine. Meals were no longer family moments but quick transactions. Christopher ate, looking at his cell phone. Lucy talked on the phone with her friends. I sat in silence, feeling more invisible at my own table every day. The comments started, small at first, almost imperceptible. "Ophelia, did you already put salt in this? Because it tastes like you did it twice." "Mum, do you remember asking me to buy milk? We bought 3 cartons this week because you keep asking." "Ophelia, you left the water running again. You have to be more careful." Each comment was a seed of doubt planted in my head. Was I forgetting things? Was I losing my memory? I started to question myself, to write everything down, to double-check everything I did. And while I shrank, they grew. Christopher spent hours locked in what used to be Robert's sewing room, now converted into his office. He talked about new businesses, investments, opportunities, but I never saw any money come in. I only saw my savings begin to disappear. "Mom, I need to borrow $2,000, Christopher would say. "It's for the business. I'll pay you back next month." He never paid me back. "Ophelia, can you help us with the electricity bill this month?" We're a little tight. Lucy would ask with that soft voice I now knew was pure manipulation. I always helped. I always said yes. Because he was my son. Because they were my family. Because mothers sacrifice, right? That's what we were taught. My pension of $1,200 a month vanished in 3 weeks. The $30,000 Robert had left me turned into $20,000, then $15,000, then $8,000. I kept track in a notebook hidden in my room, adding up every loan that was never repaid, every favor that turned into an obligation. But I told myself it was fine. That's what family was for. That Christopher was going through a tough time, and I had to support him like I always had. Lucy was more subtle, but more constant. She always had a suggestion. She always had a comment wrapped in concern. Ophelia, don't you think you should see a doctor? I've noticed you're more forgetful. Maybe we should put the accounts in Christopher's name, just in case something happens to you. It's safer. Why don't you give me your debit card? I can do the shopping. That way you don't have to go out in the cold. Every suggestion was a small surrender. Every surrender made me smaller, more dependent, more invisible. And I accepted everything because I thought it was love. I thought they were taking care of me. How foolish I was. My friends started to disappear from my life, not because I wanted them to, but because every time I planned to see them, something more important came up. Mum, I need you to stay home today because the internet technician is coming. Ophelia, you'd better not go out today. It's raining and you might catch a cold. Until they stopped calling. Until I stopped trying myself. I convinced myself that at my age, I no longer needed friends. That my family was enough. My brother Arthur came to visit me every 2 months. He lived in New York City, 3 hours away. He was a successful man, the owner of several businesses, but he never married or had children. I was his only close family, and he was the only person who saw what I refused to see. Ophelia, that boy is using you, he'd tell me, looking at me intently with those grey eyes we inherited from our mother. And that woman is worse. They're draining you, sister. Don't say that, Arthur. Christopher is my son. That's exactly why I'm telling you, because I know you. Because I know you're capable of disappearing completely just so he can be okay. But I didn't listen to him. I didn't want to listen to him, because listening meant accepting that I had failed as a mother, that I had raised a man capable of exploiting his own mother. The last time Arthur came, 4 months ago, he had a fierce argument with Christopher. I was in the kitchen, but I heard everything. You're stealing from your mother, Arthur said bluntly. She gives me the money because she wants to, Christopher replied. She gives it to you because you manipulate her, because you make her feel that if she doesn't help you, she's a bad mother. You have no right to come into my house and insult me. This isn't your house. It's your mother's house. And if you had an ounce of shame, you would be helping her instead of bleeding her dry. Christopher threw him out. And I, cowardly as always, said nothing. I let my son kick out my brother. I let him leave angry. I didn't know that would be the last time I would see him alive. Arthur died 2 months ago. A cerebral aneurysm. Quick, painless, they told me. I went to the funeral alone. Christopher said he had an important meeting. Lucy said someone had to stay to watch the house. At the funeral, Arthur's attorney handed me a letter. Mr. Arthur left instructions that you receive this in person, he told me. Arthur's letter was burning in my hands as I returned from the funeral. It was a thick, white envelope, sealed with red wax like in old movies. On the front, in my brother's firm, slanted handwriting, it simply read, "For Ophelia, read alone." I waited until night. Christopher and Lucy had gone out to dinner with friends. I had said I was tired, that I preferred to stay home. It was a lie. I needed to be alone to read what my brother had to tell me from the other side of death. I sat on my bed, with the night lamp on, and opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were two things: a multi-page handwritten letter and a folded legal document. I started with the letter. My dearest Ophelia, if you are reading this, it means my time has finally come. Don't mourn for me. I lived well. I lived my way. And I leave knowing I did the right thing by leaving you what I am going to leave you. But before you read on, I need you to understand something. What is in that legal document? Do not tell anyone. No one, Ophelia. Not even Christopher. Especially not Christopher. I paused. My heart was beating hard. I kept reading. I know it hurts to hear this from your own brother, but that boy is not the child you raised. I don't know when he went wrong, whether it was when you spoiled him too much, or when he chose to marry that viper of a wife. But the truth is, your son is a weak, greedy man capable of anything for money. And she is worse. She is the brain behind everything. He is just the instrument. Tears began to fall onto the paper, smudging the ink. But I continued. Over these last few years, I have watched you slowly disappear. Every time I came to visit you, you were a little smaller, a little quieter, a little more absent. And those two grew in your space like weeds. I've watched you give them money you didn't have, sign papers you didn't understand, give up things that were rightfully yours. And the worst part is that I've watched you convince yourself that this was love. I put my hand over my mouth to stifle a sob. But love is not what they are giving you, sister. Love is what you give them without receiving anything in return except crumbs of attention and mountains of manipulation. I tried to open your eyes. God knows I tried. But you're stubborn, Ophelia. You always were. So I decided to do something different. I decided to protect you even from yourself. I unfolded the legal document with trembling hands. It was a will, Arthur's will. And as I read it, the world stopped. My brother had left me everything: 3 apartment units in the most exclusive part of the city, each valued at approximately $150,000. And a house facing the ocean on the south coast, a property he had bought 10 years ago, and which, according to the document, was worth around $300,000. In total, almost $800,000 in property. I had to read it 3 times to believe it. Arthur had no children, had never married, and I was his sole heir. It was all mine. I returned to the letter, my hands shaking so much I could barely hold the paper. These assets are yours and no one else's. I have left very clear instructions with my attorney, Mr. Andrew Harrison. He will contact you to arrange the transfer of the properties. But Ophelia, listen to me closely. Do not tell Christopher or Lucy anything until you are completely sure they won't try to take it from you. And believe me, they will try. My brother knew me too well. I know your first instinct will be to share it with them. You'll want to tell them, help them, give them a part, because that's who you are. But I beg you, sister, don't do it. Not yet. Watch them first. See how they behave when they don't know you have something they want. That's when you'll see who they really are. I turned to the last page. I have lived 73 years in this world, Ophelia, and I have met a lot of people, good people and bad people. And I can assure you that your daughter-in-law is one of the worst. That woman doesn't love you. She never loved you. You are a means to an end, and the end is everything she can get from you. Christopher is weak. She controls him. If you tell him about the inheritance, in less than a week they will be pressuring you to give them everything. They'll invent emergencies, crises, illnesses. They'll make you feel guilty for having when they don't. And you'll give in, because you always give in." He was right. He knew exactly who I was. So I ask you this, dear sister. Be selfish for once in your life. Keep this secret. Protect what is yours. And if at any time you feel you are in danger, that they are manipulating you too much or forcing you to do things you don't want to, call Mr. Harrison. He has instructions to help you. I have paid him in advance to represent you and protect your interests, so you won't have to spend a penny. The letter ended with a simple but devastating farewell. I always loved you, Ophelia. You were the best sister a man could ask for. Now it's your turn to be good to yourself. Don't let them destroy you. Don't give them that power. And if you ever doubt, remember this. People who truly love you don't need you to be broken to feel complete. With all my love, your brother, Arthur. I cried until I had no tears left that night. I cried for my brother, for his absence, for his unconditional love. I cried for myself, for all the years I spent shrinking so that others could grow. And I cried for Christopher, for the son he had been and the man he had become. The next day, I called Mr. Andrew Harrison. He was a man in his 50s, with a calm voice and formal manners. He scheduled an appointment for the following Tuesday in his office. "Mr. Arthur was very clear in his instructions, Mrs. Miller," he said, as we reviewed the documents. "These properties are yours without any condition. The apartment units are currently rented, generating a total monthly income of approximately $4,500. That money has been accumulating in an account since Mr. Arthur's passing. There is already close to $9,000 available." I couldn't speak. I just nodded as he continued. "The beach house is unoccupied. Your brother used it occasionally, but it is in perfect condition. It is fully furnished, utilities are current, and it's ready for you to live in whenever you wish." "And what do I have to do?" I finally asked. "Nothing, Ma'am. Just sign the transfer documents before a notary public. The process takes approximately 2 weeks. After that, everything will officially be in your name." "And no one can take it from me?" Mr. Harrison looked at me intently. "No one, Mrs. Miller. These properties are yours by testamentary right. No one can claim them, sell them, or dispose of them without your express and notarized consent. Your brother made sure of that." It was then that I told him everything. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because I needed to say it out loud. Maybe because I saw in his eyes an understanding I couldn't find in my own home. I told him about Christopher, about Lucy, about the disappearing money, about the comments concerning my memory, about how I felt increasingly smaller in my own life. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he nodded slowly. "Your brother warned me that something like this might be happening," he said. "That is why he was so specific in his instructions. Mrs. Miller, I cannot tell you what to do with your family, but I can tell you this. If at any moment you feel you are being pressured to sign something, to give your consent to something, or if you feel you are at risk in any way, call me. Any hour. I will protect your interests. It is what I promised your brother." He gave me his business card. I put it in the safest place I could think of, inside my bra. We signed the papers that day. Mr. Harrison explained that in 2 weeks I would have to return for the final signing before a notary public, and that on that day everything would be official. "In the meantime," he told me, "I suggest you do not mention any of this to anyone. Absolutely no one." "Understood. Understood," I replied. But as I drove back home, with the preliminary documents in my handbag, I couldn't help but feel an emotion I hadn't felt in years. It was something like hope. It was something like power. For the first time in a long time, I had something they didn't know about. I had an ace up my sleeve. I had a way out. And then, just as I got home and was about to tell them everything because my mother's heart didn't know how to keep secrets, I heard them planning to destroy me. The days after hearing that conversation were the strangest of my life. I moved through the house like a ghost who can see the living but can't touch them. I smiled when I should smile. I nodded when I should nod. But inside, I was completely awake for the first time in years, observing every detail with a painful clarity. I started remembering things. Small thing that seemed insignificant at the time, but now took on a completely different meaning. It was as if someone had turned on a light in a dark room, and suddenly I could see all the traps they had set for me. I remembered that time, 6 months ago, when Lucy asked me to sign some papers. "It's to update the home insurance, Ophelia," she had said, with that sweet smile that I could now see for what it was, a mask. "Just your signature here and here." I had signed without reading. I trusted her. I trusted that she had my best interests in mind. Now I wondered what the hell I had signed that day. I remembered when Christopher convinced me to put his name on my bank account. "It's in case something happens to you, Mum. That way I can access your funds to pay for your medication or whatever you need. It's just a precaution." A precaution. Sure, a precaution for him, not for me. Since that day, my account had started draining faster. I remembered the doctor's visits Lucy had arranged last year. Just a routine checkup. "Ophelia, at your age, it's important to have checkups." The doctor had asked me strange questions. About my memory. About whether I forgot things. About whether I got confused. I had answered honestly, mentioning small, normal forgetfulness for anyone 71 years old. But now I realized they were building a file. They were documenting every little slip-up to use it against me. I remembered when they started isolating me from my friends. It wasn't abrupt. It was gradual, almost imperceptible. First, it was Caroline, my lifelong friend. We had planned to have lunch on a Tuesday. I was ready, waiting in the living room, when Lucy arrived with a worried expression. "Ophelia," Caroline called. "She says she has to cancel. Apparently her daughter is sick." I believed her. I sent Caroline a message wishing her well. She replied, confused. "What are you talking about, Ophelia? I waited for you at the restaurant for 2 hours. Did you forget our date?" When I showed the message to Lucy, she denied telling me anything. "Maybe you got confused, Ophelia. Maybe you dreamed I told you." And I, God forgive me, started to doubt myself. I started to think that maybe I had gotten confused. Then it was Linda. Then Harriet. One by one, my friends disappeared from my life, each time with a different excuse, each time leaving me more isolated, more dependent on Christopher and Lucy. I remembered the day I wanted to go to the bank alone. Lucy insisted on accompanying me. "The area is dangerous, Ophelia. I don't want anything to happen to you." At the bank, she spoke for me. She made the transactions. I just signed where they told me. The teller didn't even look me in the eye. To him, I was an invisible old woman, and my daughter-in-law was the one who really mattered. I remembered the conversations where Christopher would mention his debts. Never directly, always in conversations with Lucy that I just happened to overhear. "I don't know how we're going to pay this. The creditors are pressuring us. If we don't get the money soon, we're going to lose everything." And I, predictable as the sunrise, would always offer help. "I have some savings, son. We can use that." Now I realized those conversations were not accidental. I was meant to hear them. It was theatre designed to manipulate my maternal guilt, to make me feel that if I didn't rescue them, I would be responsible for their ruin. I remembered when they started talking about retirement communities. They didn't call them that, of course. They called them communities for older adults or assisted living residences. Lucy would leave colourful brochures on the dining room table. Look how nice, Ophelia. They have activities, 24-hour nurses, people your age. You wouldn't be alone. She said it as if it were a gift, as if they were offering me a permanent vacation. Christopher supported the idea with subtle comments. You get bored here, Mum. In those places you would have people to talk to, things to do. What they really meant was, in those places you would be out of the way and we would have your house. I remembered last week, when Lucy prepared a special tea for me. It's to help you sleep better, Ophelia. I've noticed you're tired lately. I drank that tea without suspecting anything. That night, I slept for almost 12 hours straight. The next day, I was groggy, confused. Lucy took the opportunity to comment. See? That's how you are lately. Disoriented. Maybe we should talk to the doctor. Now I wondered what the hell she had put in that tea. All these memories hit me like waves. Each one was a small betrayal, and all together they formed a meticulous plan to empty me out, declare me incompetent, and take everything that was mine. But they didn't know three fundamental things. First, I had listened. I knew exactly what they were planning to do. Second, I had properties worth almost $800,000 that they didn't even know existed. Third, Ophelia Miller had just woken up, and a woman of 71 who survived poverty, widowhood, loneliness, and years of silent manipulation is much stronger than anyone could imagine. That night, while they slept, I took an old notebook from my bedside table drawer. It was a notebook Robert had given me years ago, with worn leather covers. I had never used it. Now it had the perfect purpose. On the first page, I wrote, "The Defense Diary of Ophelia Miller," and I started writing everything down, every date, every suspicious conversation, every paper they had made me sign, every time they had isolated me from my friends, every comment about my memory, every strange visit to the doctor, everything. I also wrote down the name and number for Mr. Andrew Harrison, the details of my inheritance, the important dates. The final signing before the notary was scheduled for 10 days from now. I had to survive those 10 days without raising suspicion. The next day, I called Caroline from a payphone. I couldn't use my cell phone. Christopher had insisted on configuring it better for me a few months ago. Now I suspected he had access to all my calls and messages. "Ophelia, where have you been?" Caroline asked with a worried voice. "I've tried calling you, but your daughter-in-law always says you're resting or not feeling well." "Caroline, I need you to listen to me and not tell anyone about this," I told her. And I told her everything, every word I had heard, every piece of the plan. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Ophelia, you have to get out of that house," she finally said. "Those people are dangerous." "I know, but I can't yet. I have to wait for a legal matter to be resolved. 10 more days. I just need to hold on for 10 days. What if in those 10 days they make you sign something? What if they take you to the doctor and manage to have you declared incompetent? I'm not signing anything else, and if they try to take me to the doctor, I'm going to refuse. I'll make a scene if necessary." Caroline sighed. "You have my number. Anything, any hour, you call me. And if in 2 days I don't hear from you, I'm coming to that house and I'm going to create the biggest scandal you've ever seen." "Thank you, Caroline. You're the only friend I have left." "I was always your friend, Ophelia. I was the one who stopped insisting. I should have realized what was happening." When I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my chest. Someone else knew. Someone else was watching. I was no longer completely alone. That afternoon, Lucy found me in the kitchen preparing coffee. "Ophelia, we need to talk," she said, with that serious tone she used when she wanted something to sound important. "Tell me, honey." "Christopher and I are worried about you. We've noticed you've been very distracted lately. You forget things. You get confused." I took a deep breath. It was time to act. "Really? I hadn't noticed," I replied softly, looking directly into her eyes. "That's why we want to take you to a specialist, a neurologist, just to do a full evaluation. It's for your own good." "When?" "Thursday. We already have an appointment." Thursday was in 2 days, and my notary signing was in 10. If they took me to that neurologist on Thursday, I would surely leave there with a pre-prepared diagnosis of cognitive decline, and then the plan would accelerate. "All right," I finally said. "If you think it's necessary, I'll go." Lucy seemed surprised by my docility. She expected resistance, but I had learned something these past few days. Sometimes the best defense is to appear defenseless. "Perfect," she said with a smile. "It will do you good. You'll see." When she left, I took Mr. Harrison's business card out of my bra and memorized his number. In 2 days, early on Thursday, before they took me to that neurologist, I was going to make a call that would change everything. On Wednesday night, I heard the conversation that confirmed all my suspicions and snapped the last thread of hope I had left. It was late. I was in my room, but I couldn't sleep. There was something in the air, an electrical tension that kept me alert. I heard Christopher and Lucy come up the stairs, speaking in low voices. They passed my door and continued to their room at the end of the hall. I got up barefoot and walked silently until I was close to their door. It was slightly ajar. I could hear every word with crystal clarity. "Tomorrow is the day," Lucy said with a determined voice. "Dr. Thompson has everything ready. He's going to diagnose moderate senile dementia with a recommendation for immediate institutionalization." "What if she refuses?" Christopher asked. "She won't refuse. We're going to give her the sedative in her breakfast, as we agreed. By the time we get to the office, she'll be disoriented enough for the diagnosis to be credible. The doctor will ask the questions. She'll fail the answers. And that's it. We have the certificate." I felt my blood run cold. "And how much is this going to cost us?" Christopher asked. $5,000. We'll pay it with the money we take out of her account as soon as we have guardianship. I've already spoken with the attorney. Once we have the medical certificate and your signature as the only son, we can process the guardianship in less than a week. Then comes the good part. How much do you estimate we can get with everything?" Lucy paused. I imagined her doing mental calculations. "The house is easily worth $300,000, maybe more if we wait a bit, but I say we sell fast." She still has about $6,000 in her account. Her pension is $1,200 a month. If we institutionalize her, that pension passes to us as guardians. The assisted living facility costs $2,000 monthly, but with what we get from the house, we can pay for 3 years in there and still have about $250,000 clean for us. $250,000, Christopher repeated. And in his voice there was something that broke my heart. It was relief. It was happiness. My own son was happy, thinking about locking me up and stealing from me. With that, we pay off all the debts, invest in the new business, and finally we can live the life we deserve, Lucy continued, without having to take care of an old woman who is more useless every day. What if someone asks questions? What if one of her friends gets involved? Lucy laughed. It was a cold, calculating laugh. What friends? We pushed them all away months ago. She has no one. Her brother is dead. There are no close relatives. We are all she has. And when she's institutionalized, we control who visits her and who doesn't. If someone asks, we show the medical certificate and explain that, unfortunately, her condition worsened and she needed professional care. Period. It sounds too easy. It's because it is easy, Christopher. Your mother is an old woman, alone, without real resources. No one is going to ask questions. No one is going to investigate. This kind of thing happens every day. Families institutionalizing their elders because they can no longer care for them. It's perfectly normal. There was a silence. Then Christopher's voice, lower. Sometimes I feel bad about this. Don't be weak now, Lucy said harshly. She had her life. She had her marriage, her youth, everything. Now it's our turn. And besides, we're going to pay for a good place. We're not leaving her on the street. She'll have food, a bed, nurses. She'll be fine. I suppose so. Don't suppose. You know so. And you know we have no other option. Your debts are $80,000, Christopher. 80,000. If we don't pay soon, they're going to come for us. Do you want us to lose everything? Do you want us to end up on the street while she's still sitting here on this house that's worth a fortune? No. So tomorrow we get up early, give her the medication, take her to the doctor, get the certificate, and start the process. In a month. All this will be a bad memory, and we'll be living the life we deserve. I heard movement inside the room. I quickly moved away and returned to my room without making a sound. I closed the door and sat on the bed, trembling from head to toe. $80,000 of debt. My son had $80,000 of debt that I didn't know about, and he was willing to destroy me to pay it. The sedative in the breakfast, the bought doctor, the false diagnosis, the immediate institutionalization. Everything was planned in detail. I looked at the clock. It was 11 at night. My appointment with the notary was in 9 days, but they planned to take me to the doctor tomorrow. If they drugged me, if they got that certificate, everything would be lost. It wouldn't matter that I had properties valued at $800,000 if I was declared incompetent. Christopher, as the only son, would become my legal guardian, and a guardian has access to everything. I had to act now. I couldn't wait 9 more days. I took Mr. Harrison's business card out of my bra. I dialed his number on my cell phone. It was late, but he had told me to call him at any hour if I was in danger. He answered on the 4th ring. His voice was sleepy, but alert. Mr. Harrison, this is Ophelia Miller. I apologize for the hour, but I'm in danger. Tomorrow they are going to drug me and take me to a bought doctor to get a dementia certificate. I need your help. There was a brief pause, then his voice, completely awake. Mrs. Miller, listen to me carefully. Can you leave your house right now without them noticing? I think so. They are asleep. Do it. Take only the essentials. ID, your cards, some clothes, nothing else. Go out the front door and walk 2 blocks to the avenue. There. Take a taxi and tell him to take you to the Central Hotel, downtown. I will meet you there in 1 hour. Can you do that? Yes. Good. Don't go back for anything. Don't leave notes. Don't tell anyone. Just leave. I'll see you in 1 hour. I hung up and looked around my room. 71 years of life and everything I truly needed fit into a small overnight bag. I put in my ID, my bank card, some underwear, a sweater, the preliminary inheritance documents the attorney had given me, the notebook where I had been writing everything down, and the few photos I had of Robert and Christopher when he was a child. The Christopher who was, not the one who is now. I got dressed in silence. Dark pants, comfortable blouse, flat shoes. I took the $1,200 in cash I had hidden in a shoebox in my closet. It was what was left of my pension for this month. I opened my bedroom door slowly. The hallway was dark and silent. I walked down the stairs step by step, avoiding the third step that always creaked. I reached the front door. My hand trembled as I turned the handle. Before leaving, I looked back one last time. This had been my home for more than 20 years. The house where Robert and I grew old together. The house where I raised Christopher. The house they now wanted to steal from me. I walked out and closed the door without making a sound. The night air was cold and clean. I walked fast, almost running, the 2 blocks to the avenue. A taxi passed and I flagged it down. "To the Central Hotel, please." As the taxi moved through the empty streets, I looked out the window and saw my old life moving away. The woman I had been, the one who always gave in, the one who always forgave, the one who always made herself small. That woman stayed behind. The woman in that taxi was different. She was a woman who had just chosen herself for the first time in 71 years. And there was no turning back. Mr. Andrew Harrison was waiting for me in the lobby of the Central Hotel when I arrived. It was almost midnight, but he was impeccable, in a dark suit and carrying a briefcase as if it were noon. He greeted me with a nod and guided me to a discreet corner where we could talk without being overheard. "Mrs. Miller, you did the right thing by leaving that house," he said without preamble. "But now we have to act fast. First thing tomorrow morning, when they discover you're gone, they're going to start looking for you. They'll call hospitals, the police, they'll fake concern. We have to get ahead of them." "What do you suggest?" "First, we are going to protect your assets immediately. We cannot wait 9 more days for the notary signing. I'm going to make some calls and arrange an emergency appointment for tomorrow morning. The properties need to be in your name as soon as possible." I nodded, unable to speak, relief and fear mixed in my chest. "Second, I need you to tell me everything you have signed in the last few months. Every document, no matter how insignificant it seems." For the next hour, I told him everything. The papers for the supposed home insurance, the authorization for Christopher to manage my bank account, the medical forms, the evaluations with the doctor, everything. The attorney took notes with an increasingly serious expression. "This is worse than I thought," he finally said. "They have been building a case against you for months. But something works in your favor. You left before they got the definitive medical certificate. Without that document, they cannot proceed with the guardianship. And now that you are under my legal protection, any attempt to declare you incompetent will have to go through me. Can they force me to return?" "No. You are an adult with full legal capacity. You have the right to live wherever you want. But we have to be strategic. Tomorrow they will report your disappearance. They will say you are disoriented, that you suffer from dementia, that you may be in danger. And what do we do? You are going to go to the police station, voluntarily, and declare that you are well, that you left your home by conscious decision, and that you do not wish to return. I will be with you. I will also file a preventive restraining order against your son and your daughter-in-law, prohibiting them from approaching you or attempting to contact you." "I can do that." "Not only can you must do it. They represent a direct threat to your well-being and your assets." I checked into the hotel that night under my full name. Mr. Harrison paid for a week in advance. "Consider it an advance on the fees your brother already paid," he said when I tried to protest. The room was simple but clean. Single bed, small bathroom, a window that overlooked the street. I sat on the bed, and for the first time in hours, I cried. Not from sadness, but from liberation. I had gotten out. I had escaped. I was safe. At 0 hours, 7 minutes in the morning, my cell phone rang. It was Christopher. I let it ring until it cut off. It immediately rang again, then again, and again. I counted 17 calls in a row before it finally stopped. Then the messages arrived. "Mum, where are you?" "We're worried. Please answer. We need to know you're okay." "Mum, this isn't funny. Where did you go?" "If you don't answer, we're going to call the police." I didn't reply to any of them. At 0 hours, 9 minutes in the morning, Mr. Harrison picked me up at the hotel. We went directly to his office, where a notary public he had contacted was already waiting for us. In less than 2 hours, all the documents were signed, sealed, and registered. The 3 apartment units and the beach house were officially in my name. No one could touch them. No one could sell them. They were mine and mine alone. "Now comes the important part," the attorney said. "We are going to go to the police station and you are going to make an official statement." At the police station, a female officer attended to us. Her name was Joanna Evans, and she had a direct gaze that made me feel safe. I told her everything. Every detail of the plan I had overheard. The drugs they planned to give me. The bought doctor. The forced institutionalization. Everything. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she looked at me for a long time. "Mrs. Miller, are you declaring under oath that your son and daughter-in-law planned to drug you and obtain a false medical diagnosis to declare you incompetent and seize your assets?" "Yes." "And are you in full use of your mental faculties at this moment?" "Completely." "Do you wish to return to your home?" "No, never." The officer nodded and continued writing. Then she looked at Mr. Harrison. "You are going to proceed legally," he replied. "We are going to request a restraining order, and we are evaluating filing criminal charges for attempted fraud and elder abuse." "Good. The lady's statement will be recorded. If her family comes to report her disappearance, we will inform them that she is well and does not wish for contact." "Anything else?" "That is all for now." "Thank you, officer." When we left the police station, I felt stronger. Every step I took moved me away from the victim I had been, and closer to the woman I needed to be. "And now what?" I asked. "Now we wait," the attorney said. "They will try to find you. They will call hospitals. Maybe they will hire a private investigator. But you are legally protected. And in the meantime, we are going to organize your finances." Over the next few days, Mr. Harrison became more than my attorney. He became my ally, my protector, the only person I could completely trust. He helped me open a new bank account at a different bank. We transferred all my funds there, out of Christopher's reach. He explained how the income from the rented apartments worked. $4,500 monthly that now went directly into my account, plus my pension of $1,200. Almost $6,000 a month. I, who had lived on scraps for years, now had more money than I needed. "What do I do with so much?" I asked him. "Live, Mrs. Miller. Simply live." He also helped me contact Caroline. She cried when she heard my voice. "Ophelia, thank goodness. I was about to come to your house to look for you." "I'm fine, Caroline. I'm safe. And I have a lot to tell you." We agreed to meet at a cafe the next day. When I arrived, she was already there, waiting for me with tears in her eyes. We hugged for a long time. "Look what they did to you," she said, touching my face as if to verify that I was real. "They had you prisoner in your own house." "Not anymore," I replied. "I'm not there anymore, and I'm never going back." I told her everything. The inheritance, the plan, my escape, the properties, everything. Caroline listened with her eyes growing wider. $800,000, she whispered. Ophelia, you're rich. I don't feel rich. I feel free. Which is better? And do they know anything? Nothing. And they won't know until I decide to tell them, if I ever do. My cell phone rang. It was another message from Christopher, number 50-something since I had left. I had stopped counting them. Mum, please, we just want to know you're okay. You don't have to come back if you don't want to. Just talk to us. I showed the message to Caroline. Don't believe him, she said immediately. It's manipulation. They want to locate you. I know. I deleted the message without replying. Then, for the first time, I blocked Christopher's number and Lucy's. If they wanted to communicate with me, they would have to do it through Mr. Harrison. That night, alone in my hotel room, I looked at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was different from the one I had seen a week ago. Thinner, perhaps. More tired, definitely. But in her eyes, there was something that wasn't there before. There was determination. There was strength. There was life. Ophelia Miller had woken up, and she wasn't planning on going back to sleep ever again. The first week after my escape was strange. I would wake up every morning in that hotel room not knowing for a second where I was. Then the memory would return like a punch. I had left my house. I had left my son. I had chosen to save myself. Mr. Harrison called me every day. He kept me informed of every move Christopher and Lucy made to find me. They filed a missing person report, he told me on the third day. They alleged that you suffer from dementia and may be disoriented and in danger. The police informed them that you had already made a voluntary statement and that you are well. They didn't give them any more information. And what did they say? Your son insisted. He wanted to speak with superiors. He threatened to get attorneys. But Officer Evans was very clear. You are an adult with full legal capacity, and you have a right to your privacy. They have no right to know where you are. Do they think I'll come back? Probably, or at least they hope to tire you out enough so that you let your guard down. He was right. The attempts to contact me intensified. Since I had blocked their numbers, they started using other methods. They called the hotel. The receptionist informed me that a man claiming to be my son had asked for me. She, following Mr. Harrison's instructions, denied that I was there. They contacted Caroline. She called me immediately. Ophelia, your daughter-in-law just called me. She told me you were sick, that you left confused, that they need to find you to take you to the doctor. I told her I didn't know anything about you. Thank you, Caroline. She also said something strange. She said that when they find you, they'll make sure you get the appropriate treatment. She said it in a voice that gave me chills. The appropriate treatment. Institutionalization. Drugs. Total control. They won't find me, I assured her. I'm protected. But at night, alone in that hotel room, fear would visit me. What if they found me? What if they managed to trick a judge? What if they managed to have me declared incompetent somehow? Mr. Harrison noticed my anxiety. Mrs. Miller, I think it's time for you to move to a more permanent place, he told me one afternoon. The hotel is fine temporarily, but you need a home. Where? The beach house, the one your brother left you. It's ready to be occupied. It has furniture, utilities, everything. And most importantly, it's 4 hours away from here. Your son doesn't know it exists. You can start over there, in peace. The idea both terrified and excited me. Starting over at 71. Was living alone in a house facing the ocean possible? I can take you this weekend so you can see it, he offered. If you don't like it, We'll look for another option, but I think you'll like it." On Saturday morning, Mr. Harrison came to pick me up. We drove for 4 hours along a beautiful coastal highway. I looked at the ocean through the window and felt something close to hope. The house was in a small town called Peaceful Bay. Arthur had bought it 10 years ago as a weekend retreat. It was a 2-story building, painted white with large windows that overlooked the sea. It had a small garden with wildflowers and a wooden deck where you could hear the waves. When I walked in, I was speechless. Everything was immaculate. Large living room with comfortable furniture. Modern, well-equipped kitchen. 2 bedrooms on the second floor, both with ocean views. In the master bedroom, there was a note on the bed. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Arthur's. "Ophelia, if you are reading this, it means you finally found your way to this place. This house was my sanctuary for years. Now it's yours. No one knows you here. No one will judge you. No one will use you. You can be who you really are. You can rest, live in it, enjoy it. You earned it. With love, your brother." I cried, holding that note. Arthur had thought of everything, even this, even giving me a place to hide, to heal, to become myself again. "What do you think?" Mr. Harrison asked from the doorway. "I think my brother was wiser than I gave him credit for," I replied. "Are you moving in?" "Yes." We returned to the city that afternoon. During the following week, the attorney helped me organize everything. I hired a small moving company to bring the few things I needed. New clothes, some books, basic household items. I didn't want to take anything from my old life. Nothing that reminded me of that small, frightened woman I had been. Caroline insisted on accompanying me on the day of the move. "You're not going to move 4 hours away alone without me knowing exactly where you are," she said with that firm voice that allowed no argument. I gave her the address and the house's landline number. "But don't give it to anyone else," I begged her. "Not dead." The day I left the hotel, Christopher and Lucy made their last desperate attempt. They hired a private investigator who managed to track me down to the Central Hotel. When he arrived asking for me, I was already gone. Mr. Harrison called me to inform me. "They are escalating," he said. "The investigator went to the bank where you had your previous account. They discovered you closed the account and transferred the funds, but they couldn't track where. They also came to my office. I told them that if they wanted to communicate with you, they had to do it in writing and I would deliver the message. And they did. Yes, they sent a letter." "What does it say?" There was a pause. "Do you want me to read it?" "Yes." The attorney cleared his throat and began reading in a neutral voice. "Dear Mum, we don't understand why you did this. We only wanted to help you. We were worried about your health. If someone convinced you we had bad intentions, they are lying. We are your family. We love you. Please come home. We can forget all this and start over. Your loving son, Christopher." Silence. "Mrs. Miller." "I'm here." "Do you want to respond?" I thought about that letter, about every carefully chosen word, about the manipulation disguised as love, about the lie wrapped in concern. "No," I finally said. "I don't want to respond. Let them think what they want. I already know the truth." "There is something else," the attorney continued. "They tried to access the property records. They wanted to see if you had bought or sold anything recently. They didn't find anything because the properties were registered in your name before they started looking. But they are investigating your finances. They may discover the inheritance. Eventually, perhaps. But by then, you will be established in your new life. Legally, they can't do anything. The properties are yours. Period." I moved to Peaceful Bay on a Tuesday morning. Caroline came with me and spent the day helping me settle everything. When we finished, we sat on the deck with coffee and looked at the ocean. "This is beautiful, Ophelia," she said. "Your brother gave you a gift. He gave me a new life." "Are you scared?" "All the time. But I also have something I didn't have before." "What?" "Peace." Caroline stayed that night. We slept in separate rooms but left the doors open, as friends do when they want to feel close. The next morning, before she left, she hugged me tightly. "Call me every week. If you don't, I'll come back here to look for you." "I'll call you. I promise." When she left, I was alone for the first time in my new home. I walked barefoot on the beach. I felt the cold sand between my toes. I listened to the seagulls. I breathed the salty air. And for the first time in years, I felt alive. That night, I found something else in the house. In a kitchen drawer, there was an envelope with my name on it. Inside were $5,000 in cash and another note from Arthur. "For emergencies. So you never feel trapped. So you always have a way out." My brother had known me better than I knew myself. He had anticipated every need, every fear, every moment of doubt. I put the money in a safe place and kept the note in my heart. 3 weeks passed in Peaceful Bay, and I began to understand what it meant to live without fear. I woke up when my body wanted to wake up, not when someone needed something from me. I ate breakfast on the deck, watching the sea. I walked on the beach every afternoon. I read books I had wanted to read for years but never had time for. The town was small and quiet. People greeted me without asking questions. I was simply the lady who lived in the white house facing the ocean. No one knew my story. No one judged me. No one expected anything from me. But peace doesn't last when there are unresolved matters. Mr. Harrison called me on a Wednesday afternoon. "Mrs. Miller, I need to inform you of something important. Your son and daughter-in-law have just filed a lawsuit. They are requesting that a judge review your mental capacity and grant them guardianship over you and your assets." I felt my stomach drop. Can they do that? "They can try, but they have a problem. You have already made an official statement to the police. You have legal representation. You have demonstrated the capacity to handle your affairs. And most importantly, I have the conversation you overheard documented in your diary. That is strong." I don't know if it's strong enough, but it is a strong point. However, there is something else I need to tell you. The judge has ordered an independent psychiatric evaluation. You will have to appear before a specialist who will determine if you have full legal capacity. And if they say I don't have it, then we would have to appeal. But it won't come to that. You are completely lucid. Any impartial psychiatrist will confirm it. When? In 2 weeks. The evaluation is in New York City. I will be with you the entire time. Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Every night I went to bed wondering if a stranger could decide that I was not capable of controlling my own life. I imagined terrible scenarios. Christopher and Lucy winning guardianship, selling everything, locking me up in that facility while keeping my money. Caroline called me every day to encourage me. "You're the most sane woman I know, Ophelia. Don't be afraid." It's not fear of being crazy. It's fear that a corrupt system will believe them instead of believing me. That's why you have a good attorney. That's why you have evidence. That's why you will win. On the day of the evaluation, Mr. Harrison came to pick me up early. We drove the 4 hours to New York City in silence. I mentally reviewed everything I had lived through, preparing to tell it clearly. The psychiatric clinic was a modern building downtown. The doctor who would evaluate me was named Dr. Robert Trevino. He was a man in his 60s, with a soft voice and an attentive gaze. "Mrs. Miller, I'm going to ask you some questions," he said. "There are no right or wrong answers. I just want to get to know you and understand your situation." For 3 hours, he asked me questions about my life, my memory, my recent decisions, my family relationships. I told him everything, from beginning to end. I omitted nothing. I told him about the years of manipulation, the conversation I overheard, the plan to drug me, my escape. He listened without judging, taking occasional notes. "Why do you think your son would do something like that?" he asked at one point. "Because he has $80,000 of debt that he can't pay. Because he's married to a woman who manipulates him. Because at some point he stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as an obstacle between him and the money." "And how do you feel about that?" I thought for a long time before answering. Shattered, betrayed, but also liberated, because I finally saw the truth. And the truth, however painful, is better than the lie. At the end of the evaluation, Dr. Trevino looked at me intently. "Mrs. Miller, you are one of the most lucid people I have evaluated in a long time. What you experienced was systematic financial and emotional abuse. The fact that you were able to recognize it and act to protect yourself demonstrates exactly the opposite of what your family is alleging." I felt tears begin to well up in my eyes. "So, my report will be very clear. You have full mental capacity. There is no medical or psychological reason for anyone else to manage your affairs. The guardianship petition should be rejected." I left that clinic feeling 20 pounds lighter. Mr. Harrison was smiling. "You did very well, Mrs. Miller. Now what happens?" "Now we wait for the court hearing. With this report, your statement to the police, and your direct testimony, they have no case. They are going to lose." The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Mr. Harrison prepared me for every possible scenario. He explained what questions they would ask me, how to respond, how to stay calm even if I saw Christopher and Lucy. "They are going to try to provoke you emotionally," he warned me. "They will play the victims. They will cry. They will say they only wanted to help you. Don't be fooled. I won't." The day of the hearing arrived. I dressed with dignity. Dark pants, white blouse, the pearl necklace Robert had given me for our 20th anniversary. I looked in the mirror and saw a strong woman looking back at me. We arrived at the courthouse early. Mr. Harrison guided me to the hearing room. And there, across the hallway, they were. Christopher had aged. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes and had lost weight. Lucy was impeccable as always, in a conservative dress and discreet makeup, the perfect image of the worried daughter-in-law. When our eyes met, Christopher looked at me with a mix of surprise and something that might have been shame. Lucy looked at me with pure hatred. "Mum," Christopher said, taking a step toward me. Mr. Harrison immediately stepped in front of me. "Mr. Miller, there is an order prohibiting direct contact. Please maintain your distance." "I just want to talk to my mother." "You can do so in the hearing, under the judge's supervision." We entered the room. The judge was a woman in her 50s, with a serious expression. Her name was Judge Lisa Thompson, and she had a reputation for being fair but strict. Christopher and Lucy's attorney presented their case first. They talked about my age, alleged forgetfulness, my erratic behavior in leaving my home without notice. They presented testimonies from the doctor they were going to use to drug me, who declared that I showed signs of cognitive decline. They presented the papers they had made me sign as evidence of my confusion. It was all theatre, all lies. but it was well constructed. Then it was my turn. Mr. Harrison presented Dr. Trevino's report. He presented my statement to the police. He presented my diary, where I had documented every suspicious conversation, every manipulation, every sign of abuse. And then he called me to testify. I sat in front of the judge and told my story, in a clear and firm voice, without tears, without drama, just the facts. I heard my son and my daughter-in-law plan to drug me, get a false diagnosis, institutionalize me in an assisted living facility, and sell my house to pay his debts. It was not confusion. It was not paranoia. It was the truth. And I had to escape to save my life and my freedom. When I finished, the judge addressed Christopher. "Mr. Miller, is it true that you have $80,000 in debt?" Christopher stammered. His attorney tried to intervene, but the judge silenced him with her hand. "Answer the question." "Yes, Your Honor, but that has nothing to do with my concern for my mother." "And is it true that you plan to sell your mother's house to pay those debts?" We thought she would be better off in a place where she would receive professional care." "That does not answer my question. You planned to sell the house." "It was an option we were considering." The judge wrote something in her notes. Then she looked at me. "Mrs. Miller, do you wish to have any kind of contact with your son?" "No, Your Honor." "And do you feel capable of managing your own affairs?" "Completely." The judge closed the folder. "The guardianship petition is rejected. Mrs. Ophelia Miller has full legal capacity. The restraining order remains in effect. Case closed." Christopher and Lucy left furious. They did not look at me. They didn't say anything. They simply left. I left the courthouse with Mr. Harrison and took a deep breath. I had won. I had protected my freedom. I had closed that door forever. 6 months have passed since the hearing. 6 months since I definitively won my freedom. 6 months living in this house facing the ocean that my brother left me. Life in Peaceful Bay is simple and beautiful. I wake up to the sound of the waves. I eat breakfast on the deck. I walk on the beach every afternoon, feeling the sand beneath my feet and the wind on my face. I have met the neighbors, kind people who invite me for coffee, who tell me stories about the town, who don't ask about my past because they understand that everyone has the right to start over. Caroline visits me once a month. We sit on the deck, drink wine, and laugh like we haven't laughed in years. Sometimes she cries when she looks at me. "I can't believe everything you went through," she tells me. "And I can't believe how strong you are." I'm not strong. I'm just tired of being weak. The 3 apartment units I inherited continue to generate income. $4,500 monthly that are deposited into my account without me having to do anything. Added to my pension, I have more money than I ever dreamed of having. I don't spend it on luxuries. I spend it on peace, on books, on flowers for my garden, on occasional short trips with Caroline to nearby towns. Mr. Andrew Harrison became more than my attorney. He is my friend. He calls me every 2 weeks to make sure I'm all right. He helped me write a new, clear, and protected will. When I pass away, everything will go to organizations for the protection of older adults and shelters for victims of domestic abuse. Christopher will not receive a single cent. That was my decision, and I made it in peace. I haven't heard anything directly from Christopher and Lucy, but the attorney keeps me informed of what he finds out. After losing the guardianship lawsuit, they tried to appeal. The appeal was rejected. They spent thousands of dollars on attorneys for nothing. Christopher's debts grew. They had to sell their own apartment and move to a smaller one on the outskirts of the city. Lucy got an office job. Christopher works as a salesman in a store. They are living the life that always corresponded to them, a normal life, without stolen luxuries, without ill-gotten inheritance. Sometimes I wonder if Christopher thinks about me, if he regrets it, if he understands what he lost, not only in money, but in dignity, in love, in the possibility of having a mother in his final years. He probably blames me. He probably told everyone that I'm a crazy old woman who abandoned him, that I disinherited him for no reason, that I betrayed him. And that's fine. Let him think what he wants. I know the truth. And the truth is that I didn't abandon him. He abandoned me first. He abandoned me every time he chose money over me. He abandoned me when he planned to drug and institutionalize me. He abandoned me when he stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as a resource to exploit. There are moments, I confess, when I feel sadness. Not for him, but for the boy he was. For that 5-year-old Christopher who ran to hug me when I got home from work. For that 10-year-old Christopher who drew me pictures at school. For that 15-year-old Christopher who still asked me for advice. That Christopher died a long time ago. Maybe he never really existed. Maybe he was always an illusion that I refused to let go of. But I've let him go. And in that letting go, I found something unexpected. I found myself. I discovered that Ophelia Miller is not just a mother, a widow, a victim. Ophelia Miller is a complete woman, a woman who has the right to be happy, a woman who can live for herself without feeling guilty. I've started doing things I always wanted to do but never allowed myself. I took painting classes at the community center in town. My paintings are terrible, but they make me happy. I joined a book club where women my age meet every week to discuss books. I adopted a cat that appeared in my garden one day. I named her Freedom. One afternoon, while I was painting on the deck, a young woman from the town approached me. Her name is Harriet Harrison. She is the attorney's niece and works as a social worker. "Mrs. Ophelia," she said timidly, "my uncle told me your story. I hope you don't mind." "I don't mind. I work with older adults in abusive situations, and I was wondering if you ever considered sharing your experience. There are so many women living what you lived, so many who don't know how to get out. Your story could help them." I thought about it for days. The idea scared me, exposing my pain, my shame, my story to strangers. But then I remembered the years I spent feeling alone, believing I was the only one, thinking that maybe I was the problem. "It's all right," I finally told her. "I'll do it. Now, once a month, I go to the community center and talk to groups of older women. I tell them my story. I tell them they are not alone. I tell them that true love never makes you small. I tell them that it's never too late to choose themselves. And when I see their faces, when I see the tears of recognition, when someone approaches me afterwards and whispers, 'Thank you, I needed to hear that,' I feel that my pain finally served a purpose." 2 weeks ago, I received a letter. It had no return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was from Christopher. I held it in my hands for an hour before deciding to open it. Finally, I did. "Mum, I don't expect you to forgive me. I know what I did. I know what we planned. I have no excuses. Greed blinded me. Lucy manipulated me. But that's no excuse. I made the decisions. I betrayed you. I lost my house. I lost my stability. But most of all, I lost you. And that's what hurts the most. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking for money. I just wanted you to know that I regret it. And that despite everything, I still love you. Your son, Christopher." I read that letter 3 times. I searched every word for signs of manipulation, of hidden intentions, but I only found sadness. Maybe it was genuine, maybe not. It no longer mattered. I wrote a short reply. Christopher, I received your letter. Repentance is the first step toward redemption, but it doesn't erase what happened. I wish you well in your life. I hope you find your way. But my path no longer includes the possibility of you hurting me again. Take care, Mum. I sent it without a return address. It was my closure, my last word. Today I turned 72. Caroline came to visit and brought me a cake. We ate it on the deck as the sun set over the ocean. Are you happy, Ophelia? She asked me. I thought about the whole journey, about the woman I was a year ago, about the woman I am now, about everything I lost and everything I gained. Yes, I replied. For the first time in a long time, I am happy. And it was true. It wasn't an explosive or dramatic happiness. It was a quiet, deep happiness, built on the solid foundation of recovered dignity. That night, alone in my house, I went out to the beach. The stars shone over the dark sea. I took off my shoes and walked to where the waves wet my feet. I thought about Arthur, my brother, who had the wisdom to protect me even after his death. I thought about Robert, my husband, who taught me what real love was. I thought about the woman I was and the woman I am now. And in a low voice, just for me and for the ocean, I said the words I needed to say. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for choosing yourself. The wind carried my words out to sea, and I returned to my house, to my life, to my freedom. This is my story, the story of a woman who almost lost everything, but in the end, won back herself. It's not a story of revenge. It's a story of survival, of dignity, of quiet justice. And if there is anyone reading this, anyone who is living what I lived, anyone who feels small, invisible, and trapped, I want to tell you this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. It is not your fault. And it is never, ever too late to choose yourself. Your life belongs to you. Your dignity belongs to you. Your freedom belongs to you. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take it away from you. I am Ophelia Miller. I am 72 years old. And finally, after a lifetime, I am free.